I love to cook at home, and having good kitchenware makes all the difference in the world. Not only does good equipment make prep and cooking easier, but it makes it more enjoyable. This is why both Joel and I are huge fans of Made in Cookware. Their wide range of cookware, from pots and pans to knives and flatware and even glassware, are designed to be professional quality for right in your home. Joel is a big fan of their knife sets, and I just upgraded all of our stock pots and saucepans to Made in stainless steel ones. This goes along with my many other stainless steel, carbon steel pans that I have. I have over a dozen pieces, and I absolutely swear by Made In's products. Next, I'm getting a set of beer glasses. Yes, beer glasses for the whole podcast crew. Take your home cooking to the next level by upgrading your cookware by going to unitedwedrink.com/madein. That's MADEIN. Find out why pros like Grant Achatz, Sean Brock, Nancy Silverton, and Eric Repair trust Made In. Go to unitedwedrink.com/madein. That's MADEIN, and upgrade your kitchen and cooking today. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, coworkers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour, more like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast that is finding it increasingly more difficult to write the introductions for it. Welcome to United We Drink right here on unitedwedrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich, and I am going about talking about children sleeping well like a no-hitter would. We don't talk about it because bad things happen if you actually do talk about it. And joining us, as always, is our first co-host, who is joining us from his new luxury suite atop Bespin, is what it looks like, Joel Codner.
This is actually the Apple Store, if I chose my backgrounds correctly. It's nice and minimalist and clean.
Ah, you're over at the mall, I see. And
this is perfect for our audience who can't see a goddamn thing. I do want to agree with you though. When you talk about when you talk about things, they can happen. Because everyone built up Betty White's fucking 100th birthday. It was even on the cover of People magazine, and she died 2 weeks ahead of it.
That is very true. Also with us is a person who is on Child Watch while also podcasting. Kevin Abbott.
I'm a multitasker, guys, and it is an honor and a privilege to be with you gentlemen here this evening. And my laptop is fully charged. I've got everything's just running so perfectly. Mwah. There's no possibility that I will oddly just disappear and be talked about negatively by my co-hosts in 15 or 20 minutes.
That is good to know. We will not have some jokes already queued up and waiting for this instance to happen. You ruined some people's drinking games, apparently, who were waiting for you to drop out of the last episode. I think it's a weird drinking game to have for when Kevin drops out of an episode, because that's you drink once and then you don't drink the rest of the episode.
It must be a long drink. Just a really, really long drink. But we can start a new drinking game, and that will be when I piss off half the audience with my take on our topic today. Everybody can drink, and there's going to be a lot of drinking because I have decided that I'm going to anger a lot of people.
Coming
in hot, Mike.
I do have a feeling that you and I and Joel are going to have some very heated discussion. But more on that in a bit. So right after, I think it was the day after we recorded the last episode, which, by the way, was one of our more listened to episodes, like first day listens in the history of the show. So thank you everyone who jumped in and listened to that and enjoyed. And we had a lot of people reach out about it. So that was a lot of fun. If you haven't listened to the episode about beer burnout, please go check us out on your podcast app of choice for that. But actually, you know what? I'm jumping the gun even on the news. What the fuck are we drinking, guys? I'll start. I never start. I'm just gonna say that I'm having some of our own Copper Point High Ridge IPA, or West Coast IPA, and really enjoying it. I have my Liquid Death with me as always, who just released flavors for the first time. They have some lime, mango, and berry flavored Liquid Death. So I'm getting a case of lime delivered on Friday. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, welcome to 2007.
I fucking like lime.
Mike got so excited on Twitter over flavored sparkling water. It's like, what do you think I've been drinking the past fucking 200 episodes?
I've been drinking fuck you. You know, we don't care what you're drinking,
He got excited
Joel.
over a specific company's flavored, and this is not a new thing for him. There's another brand that is not an affiliate of this show, so I will not mention them because why would I do so? But another brand of sparkling water that Mike has used to really, really love before his affinity for Liquid Death, that when they came out with flavors, he would drive, I believe, 7 towns over just to get his hands on them at the one Publix that carried them.
I did very much search those out. Now they're making seltzer.
What am I drinking, Mike? Funny you ask. I am drinking Simulated Summer from a little brewery called Barrel of Monks. It is a hazy IPA and one of the better beers I'm really proud of. It's turned out so well. It's a 5%er. It's a clean, light, refreshing, dare I say, session hazy IPA. And it turned out really, really well. Joel might have had a hand in this.
And
glad you didn't say crushable.
I probably had more of a hand on the cold side. That's shout out to our man Ralph, who I believe you mentioned on the John Hole podcast, which sent us a nice bit of traffic recently. Yeah, that's it's quite a good IPA. I'm enjoying it myself. I love the peach flavors. I'm not drinking one now, but just wanted to kind of back up what Kevin's saying. And awesomely enough, getting quite a few good reviews online. And as for myself, I am drinking the Balvenie, I don't know how you pronounce it. It's fucking Scotch, Doublewood 17. Normally my go-to is I think it's the 12 Doublewood. But this one is fantastic, incredibly smooth. And I know Phil had said off the air how much he liked us drinking hard liquor and ranting on certain topics. And tonight's topic is one that I rant on totally sober just about every goddamn day. So why not add a little fuel to the fire?
Kevin is taking shooters of mezcal.
Mezcal, yes. This is my backup drink.
Does that say
bottle.
onion?
It's the bottle.
Yeah. That's
Does that
classy.
say onion?
Union.
It's classic.
Union.
Mezcal Union. Mezcal
Onion.
Onion is a parody news site about mezcal.
Nice, Mike. I appreciated that.
No problem. Also, by the way, Balvenie, if you end up putting out any merch that says it's fucking Scotch, we're going to come after you because Joel put that out there as a really good tagline, and I like it, and I'm going to claim that as ours.
I don't know why. I mean, if Grubhub or Uber Eats or whoever the fuck it was able to get Wayne and Garth from Saturday Night Live for their advertising, why can't someone get Mike Myers to also reprise his Everything Scottish character?
If it's not Scottish,
Welcome to Everything Scottish. If it's not Scottish, it's crap.
That's right. Good one.
That's gonna sound terrible when I listen back to this because I can't do accents.
All right. So right after we put out the last episode, the news came out that Canarchy, the craft beer collective of Oscar Blues, Cigar City, Deep Ellum, Perrin, Wasatch, a few other breweries whose names I can't remember off the top of my head, and I'm sorry for those, had sold their business to Monster Energy for not a terrible lot of money, if I remember right. At least by my by my standards, it's a lot of money. But for that many breweries, I think it was like $130 million.
I thought it was 330. Is that too high?
I don't know.
We did our research for this episode.
We obviously.
The number I saw was over 300 million.
Okay, then Joel's probably right. But for that many breweries, I just would like fucking. What's their faces was $1 billion. Ballast Point.
Yeah, and that was renowned as a terrible deal that they said they'll never make their money back on. So,
oh yeah, because they already sold off all of those assets again.
Yeah, so maybe maybe there's a reason why it was 300 million and not 1 billion.
But I mean, this definitely was a big deal, and being, I think, probably one of the things that was a butt of the joke to a lot of people was the fact that not that long ago, Monster Energy was suing a craft brewery, a little one in Vermont called Rock Art, for their Vermonster barley wine over a trademark dispute. And here they are now owning a number of craft breweries. I use that term craft breweries because they are still, according to the Brewers Association, considered craft breweries. But that point we will get to in just a little bit. When this news came out, Joel, what did you think?
Well, I received this news with, I guess what I will call great indifference. There was even quite a large kind of conversation on social media, on the Twitters, about the reception to it and how back in the day, these things would have been like, you know, they would have upended social media and it's all anyone would talk about. And yes, this did get a good bit of discussion, but I feel like the discussion was more about being purchased by an energy drink company rather than, you know, Big Beer or something like that. And then, you know, people really took notice of everyone's reaction, which, at least in my circle, kind of seemed a little indifferent. And not that, like, I don't care about the brands in there. I mean, listen, I drink Monster every day in between cans of Liquid Death. And I also really enjoy Cigar City. I have not stopped liking them. I know we'll get into the whole craft thing, but it's hard not to dip your toe in that already. I just thought good for them. Like, you know, it's no sweat off my sack, as they say in France.
They do say, I've been. They say it all the time. Everywhere you go.
You walk into a cafe and they're smoking a cigarette, just blowing that smoke in your face with a croissant and just saying
wearing
no
a beret.
sweat off.
Yeah, I forgot it's a common
about that.
term among cheesemakers.
You're just using old, tried and true, overused stereotypes.
Don't we all?
And I also think that, you know, being under the Canarchy Collective, it just sort of felt like a meta sale, if you will. You know, like, I guess the perception
Facebook?
of some people was like, they've already been sold once, here it's being sold again. It's more of just kind of moving pieces around the table kind of thing. Like, it didn't seem like it was this major, groundbreaking, holy shit moment. Not that I think anyone was really expecting that either.
No, I I definitely wasn't expecting anything like this. If anything, I always saw the Canarchy family, if you will, potentially expanding even further and acquiring more breweries and becoming like one of the top 5 like breweries, whatever you want to call a brewery, in the country. And so this did catch me a little bit by surprise, especially the buyer. But I mean, does it change my mind on anything about the company? No, not really so far. Like, if anything, I think I probably fall under that banner of your followers of indifference to it, Joel. Kevin, how did this come about to you, and what were your thoughts?
Well, first, I think because we missed out on last week because we recorded the podcast just before, and we always end up doing this. Big news happens right after we record. I do want to make sure that I get this out there early in the episode, and this is a scoop. Barrel of Monks and Odd Breed Wild Ale has been purchased by Bartles and James Wine Coolers, and the sale's done. It's going through. It's a pretty significant amount of money. I don't want to put it out there because I don't want to blow myself up here. But yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. I feel it's kind of funny that the two of you seem so apathetic about this whole deal, and we've got a good friend of ours that works for Canarchy and someone that used to be a co-host of this podcast. And this is a big deal. And as I think, Joel, you mentioned, and I kind of echo your sentiments, the reason why this is not a big deal and that we're not freaking out about this and we're not talking about this like crazy is because we're so now just this accepting. This is the world we live in. Craft breweries are going to become big, get a great name, get grocery stores. I mean, become a force throughout the country and internationally, and they're going to sell. And they're going to sell to giant corporations. And we mentioned Monster, but Monster's owned by Coca-Cola, is it not?
I don't know.
That's what I heard. That's what my understanding of the situation was. So, I mean, this is a giant company, and I could be totally off base, and that could have just been something that someone said to me, and, I always make sure I check my facts, guys. But we're going to see more and more of this because there's money in this industry, and it's been a tried and true method for brewers to be able to do this and breweries to be able to do this and make a lot of money and take care of their families and do all that great stuff. So, it's just another shoe to drop. This one hits close to home because one of the breweries is so close to our home, and really the brewery that kind of kicked off craft in a big way in the state of Florida, which is obviously where we all live and work, and many of us were inspired by their beers. And now, like Funky and like many others, Winwood and others, they're not independently, locally owned, bootstraps breweries anymore.
And you're wrong. They are not owned by Coca-Cola. They are their own company.
Okay. Well, listen, I've never claimed to be correct in everything
Partial
I've
owners.
said. What's happening?
In June 2015, Coca-Cola bought a 16.7 stake in Monster Beverage for $2.15 billion in cash.
Your fish, Mike. In your face.
That's not owned by.
Okay, I'm sorry. They have a several many millions. Did you say billions? What was it? Stake in the company. I think that has something to do with it.
Joel and I have stakes in MindMed. That doesn't make us the owners of that company.
But if you own enough shares, then you do.
Yes.
Let's just agree that we're both right, but I'm more right, and move on.
No. But we will move on. And
well, I just want to say one last thing. Kevin sort of made it sound as if I was shitting on the thing, and I'm really not. I mean, if anything, my apathy, as he calls it, is not from a negative place. It's just like, okay, another sale. All right, doesn't change how I feel about Cigar City. Doesn't change how I feel about Phil. I hope, It's good for him.
Who?
I hope.
Joel, that's not what I was getting at. I feel your statement. I think exactly how you just explained it. I'm just more kind of bumfuzzled by the fact that this is kind of ho-hum. It feels run of the mill. It feels like, yes, of course. I saw this and I didn't even like call my partners up and go, hey, did you see this? Like we did when we saw Constellation by Funky. It just didn't register. And for all the reasons you're talking about, and it has nothing to do with not wanting those breweries to do well and not thinking the liquid's good and they make great beer, because I think those breweries all do make great beer. And I still know so many people that are involved in that and wish them all well, because I don't think they're going away anytime soon, and they still need to get a paycheck and they'll still be big parts of that company. The landscape has changed so much. And this is a whole different thing. But I don't know how I'm going to tie this together, but I'm going to give it the old college try. I just saw something go on about the Florida Brewers Guild and going after self-distribution again in this session. And the disparate nature of what works on that such a low level that self-distribution will work versus what is going on when Monster Energy Drink purchases your brewery. They're not in the same business. It's not the same business. They're completely different businesses. They're making the same product, but it's a different business. And it's getting to the point where you look at those sales and those operations and go, well, Barrel of Monks isn't in that business. We're in a different business. We're just making a similar product. And that's another reason why it doesn't register as much to me. It's like, well, that's not something that's going to be on my radar anytime soon.
You're making me now want to change the subject, because you bring up the whole Florida Brewers Guild thing, and with them being a number of breweries and the guild being in Tallahassee this week for the start of a new session in Congress there. And I came across an article from like the Tampa Bay Fox affiliate that your partner posted on Facebook today, talking about the whole self-distribution thing. I'm saying this with as much care in my heart as I do towards the state of brewing in Florida. Fucking leave this self-distribution shit alone. It's not gonna fucking happen. I'm sorry to all you small brewers out there who don't want to sign with a distributor or can't find a distributor who wants to distribute your product. But that's a pipe dream in this fucking state right now. I'm not saying that it's never going to happen, but the distributors, their guilds, their groups are way stronger than the Florida Brewers Guild and have way more pull. And they're going to keep on killing that shit. Fight for stuff that is small and obtainable and can actually matter. And the list of stuff that the Brewers Guild put out didn't include self-distribution, even though there are 3 fucking bills that include self-distribution out there. The ones that I think are obtainable are creates new definition for the use of the industry-specific term of barrel, because right now our state considers beer as measurable by keg, whatever the fuck that means. It corrects excise tax amounts based on a per ounce basis. We have 3 different levels of excise tax in this state, including bulk gallons, pints, and quarts. And you know what is in a pint? A 12-ounce container. Know what's in a quart? A 19.2-ounce container. It's fucking stupid. But these are things that can be obtainable, and they are beneficial to a distributor too, because they pay tax on the same stuff. Eliminate the need for a surety bond. Lower the license fee for brewers from $3,000 to $500, which would be fucking incredible. And eliminate the need for the pay of registering in-house brands. These are all things that we should be fighting for, but no, we got to go for self-distribution. That'll never fucking happen in the next 10 years in this state. If they do, I'll eat a fucking hat. I don't care. but it's not
have we-
going to happen.
Have we done an episode about this topic? I know that also we have listeners from all over the country, and maybe the minutia of Florida law might not be all that interesting, but the whole idea of self-distribution and some of these sticky things that a Brewers Guild all over the world, all over the country at least, would be going through. Has that been touched on pre-me?
I think we've probably talked about it briefly, but didn't have a whole episode about it. And yeah, like, get me when I say this. Like, I'm talking about Florida, folks. For anyone who's outside of the state who has self-distribution, I'm all for self-distribution and the ability to do it. But if you're not from Florida, you don't know how powerful the lobbyists for distributors are here. And they shoot that shit down. They have Congress people in their fucking pockets. And you might as well be fighting a brick wall because you're not going to win. But anyway.
Well, not with that attitude, Mike.
That's why I'm saying, like, go after low-hanging fruit. Go after stuff that is obtainable and doesn't impact distributors, like, in a negative way. Because they look at that shit as impacting their bottom line, where a change in the way taxes are done for breweries also will impact the way that taxes are done for distributors in a positive way. If you have one uniform tax rate, they're going to love that too, because then they don't have to go and change their tax rates based off of the size of the container that they have in their warehouse. They can just go, we have X amount of ounces, we pay X amount of dollars. It fucking makes sense.
And that was Mike's last call.
that you know what, that probably is.
It was his first and his
I'll yield
last
my
call.
time. But back on topic, the main thing that we wanted to talk about today, coming off of this whole Monster Energy buying Canarchy thing, was the Brewers Association came out with a statement saying that the Canarchy brand family of brands, is still considered craft beer under their definition because they were not purchased by a large alcoholic beverage company. So therefore, they are still considered craft. So this brings us to kind of the topic. Does craft beer mean anything anymore? If it does, who does it matter to? And really, does it matter on a whole? Kevin, you're the one who kind of brought this topic up to the group. So I'm going to let you start things off here.
I feel like this entire... I don't know where you guys sit on this because we didn't discuss this beforehand. I know you all pretty well, so I can kind of imagine it. I can see this entire episode being entitled Meh, because what we talked about with this sale and the impact of what it means to be craft beer is kind of meh to me. And I hate the sake of not sounding impassioned about something. We are craft beer people. We want to talk about craft beer. We want to be enthusiastic and excited about our field. And I can definitely talk with passion about a lot of different aspects of it. But when I think about what it means to be craft, you have to, or when I think about it, I'm trying to internalize it for me. And the term means quality to me, right? When I talk about craft beer, I'm trying to talk about quality. I'm trying to talk about, in some way, small business. But it really, to me, first and foremost, still resonates as quality to me. But craft beer has nothing to do with quality. There's big breweries that make better beer than small breweries, and small breweries that make better beer than big breweries, and breweries that fall in craft that are terrible, and breweries that fall outside of craft that are great. When I think about this, the most important thing is to think about how other people think about it. And what does this really mean to anybody outside of our industry and the person that is actually supporting and buying our products? Because we're in the industry, and our size of brewery has to sell beer at grocery stores and has to sell beer at hundreds and hundreds of tap locations. And does anybody the casual beer drinker, that is the only reason why we can survive in the size of breweries we have. Because if we just go after the uber craft beer geeks and people that understand what a craft beer designation would be in our neighborhood, we'd all be out of jobs. So the people that really matter and that really move the needle when it comes to beer sales, have they ever even heard the term craft beer? And when they do, don't they just think of Blue Moon and Shock Top? Aren't they just thinking of the crafty brands that they see on the supermarket shelves? I am glad that we have a Craft Brewers Guild. I'm glad that we have the meetups, and I'm glad that we have the Craft Brewers Conference, and I'm glad at all the resources and things that are available. I'm proud and very, very glad to have the community. But the designation of who's cut off at craft and who's not, I don't think matters one fucking bit to anybody that matters and keeps our lights on.
I agree. I didn't think that you were going to take such a stance, honestly.
Oh, what do you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to be a little more positive towards it, even though that you are kind of a pessimist at heart. Like, I feel like you would have found some nice way of positively spinning that, and it making sense because that's what you do. You are very mindful of providing good evidence on things, and sometimes I know Joel and I have talked about things that you have said to us and being like, fuck, we hate that he makes so much sense on a thing that we disagree with. But yeah, I say this as a person who got into craft beer wholeheartedly, like jumping in headfirst into the shallow end, and being like, yes, fuck the big guy, fuck that. It's all about craft and small and artisanal, and I know Joel hates that word, but that's kind of what it was to me. And I know I touched on some of this stuff last week in talking about the romanticism of making a small product out there, but over the years that has gone away from me. Like, the passion of making the product has not, but this whole title and designation has not. And seeing how the goalposts get moved by the Brewers Association as to who gets to play in the sandbox is kind of fucking dumb and lame, and like, it takes me back to some music days on I was like, you know what, fuck this. I don't need someone to tell me that I play melodic metalcore or something like that and create these weird subgenres within the fact that I play rock and roll, I play music and things like that. And so it's just come to me that craft is dead. I don't care about the word craft. I don't care about their definition of craft. It's not a legal definition anyway. It's something that some trade group came up with and says, you're craft if you do this. And honestly, the big brewers have called their bluff and been like, you know what, we're going to call Wicked Weed craft. Well, they're not. Stop us. You can't, because there's no legal definition. I'm going along with, like, I make beer. I'm a brewer at a brewery that happens to be local here in South Florida. We're small. We're really passionate about what we make. If you want to call it craft, you can. I hate the fucking little silly logo that they have. It's dumb. It's really poorly designed. I'm sorry to whoever was involved with that. I still think to this day it's a terrible looking thing, and I've tried to get my boss to let me take it off of our cans. But that thing that is on our cans doesn't sell any amount of beer.
I think this is the right time to also say that we have a new sponsorship from the Craft Brewers Guild. and they have been a big fan of the podcast, and they really enjoy our takes on their guild and their industry.
I didn't say anything about the guild being dumb or the Brewers Association being dumb. The Brewers Association does a lot of good stuff for brewing and for small people or small breweries and working with them. But creating a definition for a subgroup of brewers is fucking weird, because they allow the big breweries to come in and be a part of the Great American Beer Festival that they put on, and allow them to win awards, allow them to pour beers, even though they aren't craft. It's just like, it's kind of silly. Like, represent them all, or tell them that they can't participate in those things. Like, it's having your cake and eating it too, kind of, in the way I look at it.
Joel, you look like you're chomping at the bit, man. Where are you at on this?
Yeah, this is one I feel pretty strongly about. And to go back a little bit, and how this ties into the Cigar City thing, I agree with Mike on the independent logo, the Brewers Association issues, all of that stuff. But there are some people who I genuinely like over there, and certainly don't want to lump them in with all the bullshit. But one of them had tweeted on the day of the Canarchy announcement with Monster, saying like, "Oh, we've retracted a tweet saying that fucking." They won't be craft anymore because Monster is not an alcohol company," or something along those lines. And I just remember thinking, like, who gives a shit? Like, it is 2022. We are, like, entering year 3 of the fucking pandemic. I don't think people have realized how much other people have taken this time to reprioritize what's truly important in life, and to make such a fuss over something that I don't see really affects anyone was just awful to me. I thought it was so condescending and douchey and almost snobbish in a way. I think that the entire craft independent thing was well-intentioned, and I think, as we know, the road to hell is paved in good intentions. And I think that this whole craft definition, independent logo, all this has done is serve to divide us even further. Because, a decade or so ago, if you were to get into craft beer, you would be indoctrinated with what everyone knows I call the hashtag craft beer circle jerk. And you would be taught that big beer, it's propaganda. I mean, big beer is fizzy yellow, cheap, mass-produced piss water of the lowest quality. And the exploding can of diacetyl at the nano shithole across from your house is high quality, locally sourced, ethical, you're being a good guy and supporting the good guys. And it took a while for those kind of layers of the onion to be peeled back for me, but eventually I got it. And it honestly, when we talked about beer burnout on the last episode, I think this is one of those things that is a symptom of all that, or a cause. I mean, it kind of feels like a betrayal. So now when everyone talks about, every time I get into this, I feel like there's always someone trying to contradict me, going, well, it doesn't mean that, it means this. And they tried, juggling with the actual meaning of it. And I still don't have a true one, aside from, whatever the ownership and barrels produced a year. And I mean, who gives a shit? But it feels like there's this unspoken implication that if you attach the word craft, if you attach the word independent, if you attach the word local to anything, it doesn't have to be beer. It could be the local, sandwich shop. It could be whatever. I'm sorry. That doesn't mean that these are automatically good people who know how to run an ethical business and source their products from an ethical place or do everything right. And I there are times when it's like, you know what, I'd almost rather go to the chain restaurant than the, independent place, because like sometimes you just don't know how it's going to go. Like sometimes I just want the quality, the level of quality and consistency that I'm used to from certain places. And I don't feel like I get that with some craft breweries. I mean, I just don't. It's this, blanket term that we've just attached to everything. And it's like, if you think that Sam Adams and, the nano shithole down the street that I mentioned earlier, sit at the same lunch table, you're out of your fucking mind. It's ridiculous. And, one of those kind of indoctrinations when you get into beer is that, and I still see so many breweries, leaning on this narrative, and which is, we're local, we're independent, we're not corporately owned, we're the good guys. And it just seems like such bullshit to me, because what you're not is not an identity. Like, no one ever goes to a bar and tries to pick up another woman by, no one's opening line is, "Hi, I'm not your ex-boyfriend."
I've used that twice, actually. Very successfully.
Well, congratulations. But I just feel like at this point in time, with everything we've seen throughout this industry, we have wasted a lot of goddamn time defining who we are to each other rather than who we are to the people we want in our tap rooms. And I'm sorry, but what we've been doing is not good enough. It's not good enough to be local. It's not good enough to be craft, independent, whatever you want to call it. I have worked for 4 breweries now, and I'd say half of those had owners who had no idea how beer was made. Half of them were actually...
How dare you say that about Kevin? How dare you?
3/4 of them
None taken. None taken, Joel.
3/4 of them were just, it's hilarious to me, because craft beer, whatever you want to define that as, seems to be very left-leaning in its politics and, views on things like social justice and things like that, which is great. But I don't think a lot of people realize, like, how many owners are fucking Republicans who could give less than a shit about anything but their profits. And I could rant for hours on this. I'm just going to have another sip of scotch because now I need it.
Well, Joel, you're going very hard into something that I touched on, which is quality, right? The category of craft has nothing to do with quality. There's nothing in there about making good beer.
But that's the unspoken implication I'm talking about. That if this term or this logo is attached to that, then it falls under all that same umbrella. Everything in that independent bottle is not just ownership and barrels produced. It's quality and ethical and local, and you're helping support jobs marketing and all that bullshit.
There also used to be, until they rescinded it a few years back, the guild used to say, like... and this was almost a quality standpoint, that if you don't use majority barley for your mashes, you're not craft. And they ostracized a number of breweries who were technically within the rest of their standards, but because they used corn or rice because of a traditional standpoint, like Yingling and August Shell, they told them, you're not a part of the club because you do it this way, and you're not allowed, even though you're smaller than fucking Sam Adams. But they eventually were like, okay, if you do it because of tradition and not for cost purposes, then you're allowed to do that.
But it all comes down to who it's for. Who is the title for? If the title is to strengthen your group and bring as many people to the fold as craft, to be stronger and have more people out there trying to influence the craft movement. Well, that's a political game. That's something that you do
Sounds
to get
very
more
culty.
dues, to get more people under your banner, what have you. If it's trying to woo a customer and get them to come across and say, I'm going to pick up this craft beer because we can sell more, that's a different thing. Every one of these titles, every one of these brands, every one of these ideologies, when it comes to locally sourced, organic, non-GMO, everything comes down to trying to create a narrative about why your product stands out from somebody else. Very much like Joel said, I thought it was beautiful. Defining yourself by what you are not. And you are not the run-of-the-mill cookie-cutter restaurant down the street. You are not the big bad brewery that's in St. Louis. The identity of craft is something different for everybody. And for the majority of human beings that purchase beer, it means nothing. And for the people that are in our industry, it means different things. For the people that are the people that would get upset that Cigar City, as part of Canarchy, would not be part of the craft beer umbrella anymore, the vast majority of them probably haven't drank a High Lie or a Maduro or any of their regular beers you can find on a grocery shelf for 3 years. Because they don't drink beers that are found in regular grocery stores. They only drink new, exciting, crazy things that they can trade for and impress their friends with. So what does it matter to them? There's no segment of this population that's really going to be affected by this. The Craft Brewers Guild might be, the voting bloc might be, the influence might be, but that's really it. It's politics.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think one of the things that you, Kevin, pointed out very early in your topic, or in your just reasoning, was the whole, in order to sell an X amount of beer at an X amount of size, you need to be in grocery, you need to be in chains, and the hype boy breweries are not the ones doing that. That's breweries of considerable or admirable size do that because that's how they see that they can scale up their size and they can make more beer and they can keep the lights on to grow. I'm not saying that a brewery that doesn't distribute can't grow and all of that, but it's at a far different rate. And for if someone wants to grow at a certain rate that is more so than that, that's how you do it. And you got to play that game with those corporate folk. You can't be so independent when you are dealing with not so independent, it is kind of funny that you have to play with not indies being indie. It's all funny and just dumb.
There are, every time we make a new beer, every time we do anything outside the run of the mill or plan for the next year and our releases, if we plan for trying to aggressively take care of and nurture the really great craft beer accounts that care deeply about our beer, that talk to us about it, that think about it, that cultivate their beer menu with a meticulous nature. If I really, really put all my attention towards them, I'm going out of business. I need to be able to go after a clientele that really has no idea who I am, doesn't know I'm local. In fact, if they knew I was local, it actually might be bad for me. They'd actually like it when you're massive and you're well known and you're everywhere, because that means that you, in their eyes, somehow are better because you're ubiquitous. You're at a gas station, right? It's a razor thin line we all live on when you're producing 2,000 to 4,000 barrels a year, because you're too big to to go after every one of those craft beer accounts and have those things actually be able to make you money. And you're too small to just be pumping beer out of every single Applebee's in the world. And I think there's like 4 of those left. So those are big accounts. It's a really weird world that we live in, because we're talking about craft. We consider ourselves on this podcast to be craft brewers. We make greatly crafted beers from great ingredients, and we give a damn about the product we make. We stand up and say, when I don't think this is as good as we can make it, and we try our frickin' best to make great beer, and we think about it. But there's no special club for us other than the ones that we make for ourselves. And we certainly are always lumped in with everybody in the world that makes beer. Some great, some better than us, some way better than us, some that don't make beer that's drinkable. And we're all in the same pool.
I propose that we come up with our own group called let's go with the Better Brewers Collective, the BBC. No, that's not good. But like the fact that like the Brewers Association doesn't, like, I know this might be overstepping bounds for dues paying members, but like if you have a fucking can explode, you should be put on probation for their guild and be like, all right, stop doing that. If we hear about you doing that shit again, you're out. And
I do not want my dues going towards prisons. So I'm very leery of this. And sending brewers to jail, capital punishment, Mike, I'm on board, but I don't want to have to pay for them.
I'll pay your share too, Kevin.
Okay, well then I'm good. See, these are compromises. We're figuring things out.
all right. So I think that collectively we all agree that the term has lost a lot of its weight over the last 10 years.
Oh yeah, and collectively, this group of gentlemen that host a craft beer podcast aren't all that interested in craft beer. I think that's the message that we're trying to put out there.
Whoever he is, that we do a beverage podcast.
Ah, okay.
I think there's one other aspect to this that we may be overlooking, and because we're making all these generalizations and
we're good at making generalizations.
Well,
pretty much
Kevin
the
and
entire
I are,
podcast.
you not so much. Well, but at times I want to say things, hyperbolically, like, I don't care if your beer is made in fucking Pyongyang, as long as it's good. But that's honestly not good enough either, because guess who makes good beer? Founders. I won't buy another Founders beer again after what we know about them. I won't buy another Brewdog beer again, or McKellar. So, the industry has had all these reckonings, the kind of, I don't want to call it a Me Too, but it's definitely in that stratosphere of, toxic workplaces, especially towards women, racism issues, all that stuff. And believe it or not, coming from quote unquote craft independent places. But so there is that to take into account. I think, unfortunately, people just don't have the time to stay informed. I mean, I was talking to someone today about a brewery that, they brought it up to me about a brewery that was having its own issues. And I said to them, like, I got to be honest, I don't even fully know what happened there. I don't have the time to keep up with every single case. And to, look, obviously we should know, but it's hard to fucking keep up with all of them because there's a lot of them. And you can't really fault people for being unaware. I mean, there are people who are just blissfully unaware of what happened with Founders. Go to their Untapped right now and look at all the check-ins that just keep rolling in and don't say anything about, the shit that went down there. There are people who are just blissfully unaware, and it's really hard to, unplug everyone from the fucking craft beer matrix.
Yeah, you're certainly right. And
And what I fucking hate about it is that it's one more thing to take away from what we should be focusing on, which is what we were indoctrinated into, which is this whole craft community, high quality, everybody gets along thing. I mean, all of these issues that detract from it pull us further away from being what we tell everyone we are.
yeah, I mean, look at Rat Magnet's whole reckoning that happened months ago on Instagram. Every single one of those breweries is considered a craft brewery that had sexism and harassment and abuse going on at them. Like, come on. Like, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen at big breweries, but I mean, they weren't named in there. That didn't sound like it was happening over there because they have HR departments. They have people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, who is better equipped to deal with those issues? A tiny nano with some misogynistic jerk-off owner who only opened a brewery because he wanted to have his own little social club where he could, have free beers and get laid on occasion, or some giant goddamn beer conglomerate with a fully staffed HR department. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's almost as if any time you want to paint a large, complex, and diverse community with the same brush, that it's going to not work out so well. And I think we find this in craft beer, and lo and behold, we find that in the world with musicians and artists and actors. And we want to all be part of a community. The fairy tale, Joel, that we all got into this going, man. And when I first got into the industry, I knew everybody. And we all talked and hung out and talked about beer, and everyone was trying to lift each other up. And there's still a lot of that. And I'm still really, really proud when I experience it, because it makes me long for the olden days. But how many of the people that casually and share a passion for craft beer have horrific things in their background, and if you knew their political leanings, you would want nothing to do with them? When you delve too deep into anybody beneath the surface of what the beer looks like, you're going to find some skeletons. And you're going to have those people as parts of guilds and parts of organizations and parts of teams that are going to make you uncomfortable. And there's no way to get together with a hell of a lot of other people without having that happen.
For sure. I think we're getting close on time here. Joel, anything else that you want to add?
No. I will say that one thing I have often fantasized about is walking the aisles of CBC wearing a black shirt with giant white lettering that says local/craft/independent is not a synonym for quality or ethical. But I just know that I'll get stopped and some jerk off will want to debate me, and I really don't feel like talking to people. So
you'll probably get stopped by more people who are like, "Hold on, I gotta make you stop so I can read all of these words."
Aren't
little
you
wordy,
blue
bro.
cocky?
A little wordy, bro.
It is a little wordy.
How about craft doesn't equal quality?
How about fuck beer?
So the beer burnout episode is a two-parter?
Yeah.
Did we just decide that?
Yep. Kevin, anything else that you want to add on to here?
To this conversation? No, I think I've spoken my piece.
All right. Let's head on into last calls then. The point in the show where we give each other an unspecific amount of time to voice our opinions, unopposed, unobjected, uncorrected, or for that matter, about whatever we want to talk about. I know that sometimes the whole episodes kind of sound that way, but it's not. Trust me. I guess I did kind of use my my last call early on about the guild stuff, but I do want to just give one quick shout out and send a thank you to a friend of the show, Jay, who sent me an unsolicited, unknown box of beer to the brewery of Tampa Bay area beers, including cans of Marshall Zukoff. Thank you so much. I was like, what the fuck is this? And then, thank you, man. It really meant a lot. Joel?
Well, I guess I have to do a two-parter, because real quick, this is the second episode in a row where Mike has beat me to thanking the same exact person for the same exact box of beer. So, thank you, Jay, and God damn it, Mike.
Starting to feel left out.
But I will say, in the spirit of our show topic and what could probably overall be defined as empty gestures, I know I've brought this up on the show before, the classic 1996 George Carlin special, Back in Town. And there's a segment where he calls it free-floating hostility. 28 minor cultural items he is bored with, tired of, and pissed at. And one of those things is Mickey Mouse's birthday being announced on the news as if it's an actual event. And basically he punctuates that bit with saying, "No wonder no one in the world takes our country seriously. We keep our citizens informed of the age of an imaginary rodent." And I find that quite topical at the moment, because we seem to be addressing problems with cartoon characters more than we address problems with actual people and their actual behavior. I mean, we canceled Pepe Le Pew because apparently he's a rapist. We, in the past 2 days alone, we have canceled the Seven Dwarfs, or Dwarves, rather, and now Minnie Mouse in Disneyland Paris is going from her well-known polka dot dress to a pantsuit. This last week, they decided to make the green M&M more progressive by removing her high heels and giving her some more casual shoes. So the Larry Davids, as some people referred to it. I just have a question. Are you people fucking insane? What are we doing? This is absolute lunacy. I don't know what's going on. There are times when I read this shit and I'm like, you know what? I probably should have gone through with that suicide attempt sophomore year, because this is the dumbest fucking shit we could ever be focusing on in 2022. And that's all I have to say.
Follow that, Kevin.
No. I refuse.
You just want to plug something?
Liquid courage. I was going to bring this back to a beer thing, but it feels a little awkward now. But listen, awkward is my middle name. I don't know what stories I've told on this podcast because I don't have a good memory. And I go on a lot of podcasts. I don't know if you guys know, a pretty big deal. So I'm going to say something. If you guys have heard it before, and I mean the listeners, you can just tune out. When I got into this industry for the first time, I was brewing beer. And this is bringing it back to the whole craft beer community thing, and hopefully on a positive note. We met at the brewery that I worked with, and we were starting up our own little nano brewery. We met with Matt Webster, who was one of the owners and the head brewer at Tequesta Brewing Company, which is a existing operating brewery to this day. And he was just building his brewery, but he had a very small nano setup. And we had no idea what the hell we were doing. We were home brewers. We knew nothing. We were just making crappy beer in our garages. And he walked us through every step that he went through. We copied his brew house, 55-gallon steel drums fabricated to make some vessels, piece by piece. And he said, and we thanked him after we hung out for a whole brew day and did some manual labor for him. And the only thing he said to us was, hey, you can repay me by just making good beer. Please make good beer. Because people are going to try your beer, and if it sucks, they're not going to try mine. Because they're going to paint with a broad brush and think that all quote-unquote craft beer tastes like shit. And it always resonated with me, and it meant a lot to me that someone would help us out when we were nobodies and starting a new brewery. And I still think about that to this day when I'm working with Joel and Ralph and Ben at our brewery, when I'm talking with Matt Manthe, and when I'm hanging out and talking with Mike and his brewery and other people that will come and we'll have conversations, is that there is a community of people that just really want to make good beer and that put thought into them and that you can actually talk to. And when they say, hey, that wasn't my favorite, that wasn't great, you don't blow up and freak out and go, oh, if you don't love everything I do, you must be a moron. Or if you don't love everything I do, I must be terrible. Because we're all trying to get better at all times. So that community still exists. It's small. There's pockets of it here or there, and people come in and come out of it all the time. But that's the craft beer that I love. That's the category of craft beer that's important to me, and that's the thing that I want to retain. It just tends to be personal and not done on a national basis. There's no numbers connected to it. It has nothing to do with the malts and the sugar sources. It's just mine, and that's what craft beer is to me.
Nice. Let's go have a beer at Coffee District someday.
Salute.
All right. Plugs. Kevin, want to plug anything?
You got to come down to Barrel of Monks and get some Simulated Summer, guys. The beer's really, really good. And if you like over-the-top, ambitious flavors, the Vanilla Hazelnut Double is incredible. We don't have a lot of them left, and they'll be gone pretty soon. So I hope people get a chance to try them.
Joel?
I will echo Kevin's sentiments, and also just thought I would plug the new sponsor because it's something that I actually enjoy damn near every day. I last year was looking for some new cutlery for my kitchen and really wanted some good knives. I have abused the shit out of my knives over the years. I have thrown them in the dishwasher, which, I knew you weren't supposed to do, but by the time I figured that out, it was too late. We had a beautiful Wusthof set for our wedding that we got as a gift, and I have fucking ruined those. But I got 3 knives from Maiden. I have their Santoku, their Nakiri, and their chef's knife. And I'm telling you, these things are fucking awesome. And just having a quality knife makes all the difference in the world. I enjoy cooking so much more because it is less difficult with a great knife. So I'm so excited that they are, I don't know what you would call them, Mike. Apparently they...
Partner.
I like that. And hopefully I can get Delta Faucets on board. Because apparently I'm quite the influencer when it comes to getting people to buy home glass rinsers for their home kitchens. So I've inspired quite a few people online, apparently, to get those after I had one installed in my new kitchen. So hopefully next episode we can get Delta Faucet in here.
Yeah, we all have our skills.
I definitely echo Joel's sentiments on Maiden. He
echoes my sentiments so much that he used the term "echoes my sentiments" as I did.
Did you?
We're
say
through
that?
the Looking Goss, people.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Now enjoy the show.
Mike, do you listen to this show, or are
No.
you just
No.
kind of come in and out, like when it's convenient?
The only things that I listen to are all the sounds that you guys make, so that I can edit them out.
Is it mostly me or mostly Joel?
Right now, you.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I love Maiden stuff too. We just we just replaced all of our saucepans and with brand new stainless steel made in products. We love them. We have stainless steel pans, blue carbon pans, baking pans. I have over a dozen pieces from them, and I love them. And I just learned that they have glassware, and their beer glasses look beautiful. I'm getting some of those for the crew here, so we can enjoy some of our beers in some awesome looking glassware. If you want to buy some Made In stuff, go to unitedwedrink.com/madein, and your purchases with an amazing brand that is created for people who love to make food and enjoy food, enjoy drink. Like it's top level chefs who created this brand, and it's top level chefs who use this brand. If you want that and you want to make your kitchen more enjoyable and easier and better, go check out Made In, because I can't endorse them enough. But also, you can follow me at Mike Loves Beer on Instagram, Twitter. You can follow the show at United We Drink on Twitter, at United We Drink Pod on Instagram. We are available on all the major podcasting services, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Podnods, which is a new service that is apparently super popular with a number of our listeners. And you can buy shirts, buttons, stickers on our store, unitedwedrink.com/store. Other than that, we'll be back in a couple weeks to shit on our industry that we love and can't leave so much again. Who knows? Maybe we'll talk trash about Brewdog again. For Joel, Kevin, we'll see you guys next time. Cheers.
Cheers.